Right now, the federal government shutdown has stopped doling out paychecks, but not the compassion coming from one Georgia credit union. Find out how they're giving furloughed workers a financial lifeline. Also, we'll examine the most talked about home renovation in the U.S. happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We'll put the future ballroom being built at the White House into context. And are you going to see the Hawks at State Farm? Well, it's become more than just a hot dog or a pretzel. We'll talk with the chef who's rolling out a whole new menu that's pure ATL flavor. This is The Take. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Take. I'm Dan Kennedy in for Chelsea McNeil today. Today, we're going to go over some of the headlines, go beyond them as well, and look at why and how some of these stories are impacting your community. Experts will join us to share what they know, and we'll have a little fun too. But we want to start in Kingston, Jamaica, where Hurricane Melissa is set to hit today as a catastrophic Category 5 storm. It is the strongest to lash the island since record keeping began 174 years ago. As you're taking a live look there now, we're told that hurricane just about 100 miles or less away from making landfall, could happen within the next hour or so. We're talking landslides, fallen trees, numerous power outages, all reported ahead of this storm. And once it makes landfall, Melissa is expected to slice diagonally across the island and then hit Cuba. We'll have continuous updates on that storm here on the networks of 11Alive. Back here at home, Georgia's Secretary of State is praising a new proposal from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission that would require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. Brad Raffensperger says Georgia already leads the way with its own verification system, which has flagged more than 1,600 potential non-citizen registrations, and he believes it's time for a nationwide standard. As he put it in a statement released yesterday, this latest step by the EAC signals the beginning of what must become a nationwide constitutional amendment banning non-citizen voting once and for all, he said. But voting rights advocates argue that this kind of rule would make it harder for eligible Americans to register, and they say it could violate federal election law. One of those critics is Fair Fight CEO Lauren Groh-Wargo, who joins us now this morning. Lauren, good to be with you. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So we know Georgia already verifies citizenship during voter registration. So what's the real world problem when it comes to expanding that nationally in your view?
So right now, when you register to vote, you make a signature on the federal form that attests that you're a citizen. We don't have undocumented Americans voting in our elections anywhere. This is a false problem, a lie. And so the way I think about this approach here that unfortunately our Secretary of State has signed on to is there's a national push by Friends of Trump to basically tell American citizens and voters, you've got to show your papers to register. So that means the new federal voter registration form that's being contemplated would require the showing of a passport, a birth certificate, or other paperwork that millions of Americans don't have. And so right now today in Georgia, there's a state form and a federal form. You can register on either. So what Raffensperger is talking about is nationally, the Elections Assistance Commission, which is a bipartisan commission meant to help election administrators and help make it easier to vote, is contemplating whether to change the requirements on the federal form to require the show your papers citizenship verification.
If the EAC goes through with this, do you anticipate any legal fight, or are you going to try to put up a fight at all?
I definitely anticipate a larger fight. There's already a fight underway. Just recently, over the past week or so, the comment period, the public comment period on this proposed change nationally closed. There were thousands upon thousands of comments that went in on both sides. And the way the EAC works, it was established in 2002. It's 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. And they're going to look at this and see what recommendations they can make. This is a dramatic change on how voter registration would occur in this country. And so absolutely, this change is estimated to disenfranchise tens of millions of Americans who are lawful voters but don't have the required paperwork. Can you imagine talking to a friend of yours in another state? They don't have a passport. They don't have a real ID. and then they couldn't register to vote, that's too high of a barrier. We don't have a problem of non-citizen voting.
You say you don't have a problem. The Secretary of State, though, says that he flagged 1,600 potential non-citizen registrations. Are you saying that number is false? How do you interpret it?
So look, 1,600 out of 8 million registered voters. Is he saying those voters went ahead and voted as well? There are folks who, small numbers of folks, erroneously register, but very few actually go ahead and vote. When you look at the percentage of the problem here, this is a massive change to voter registration that would impact tens of millions of American citizens for a worry about essentially a couple hundred voters in each state. That is not a real problem. That is not a statistical problem. So we cannot be willing to disenfranchise our fellow American citizens for a rounding small number of folks who are erroneously registering and mostly not voting, right? This is a felony if a non-citizen votes. Undocumented Americans are not going to risk that, correct? But what we know is Americans deserve easy access to the ballot.
Lauren, when you talk about disenfranchising, I mean, how exactly might it make it harder for eligible Georgians to register or stay registered when it comes to these federal elections? Is it as simple as just not having access to a birth certificate? I mean, what kind of IDs are we talking about not having access to here?
Yeah, so this is really where the rub is. It's a very good question because there's multiple proposals going around. There was a bill in Congress. There's what's going on at the EAC, and there's been a couple dozen state legislative bills proposed, not yet in Georgia, but we're expecting them to come. Each one of these efforts is part of the Trump world attempt to remake voting. Every effort defines this differently. So one version, for example, would require women whose names have changed, and if they don't have a passport with their married name, they would have to go produce their marriage certificate. That was one version of the bill. I don't know many women, married women, Democrat or Republican, who have easy access to a marriage certificate and are expecting to have to produce that to go register to vote or stay on the rolls. So every one of these proposals has looked a bit different. So that's why we're very cautious and worried that we don't want to go down this path to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Raffensperger hinting that this could be a step toward a constitutional amendment banning non-citizen voting. So it's something to watch, and we hope to have you back on to discuss further. Lauren, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You are watching The Take. We'll be right back. President Trump holding his first meeting with Japan's first female prime minister, strengthening trade ties with a close U.S. ally. NBC's Tracy Wilkins joins us now from Washington. Tracy, good morning to you. Tell us about this new deal signed between these two today.
Well, good morning, Dan. Japan wants a trade deal that protects its interests, creates a strong relationship with the United States, and avoids increased tariffs. It's a delicate balance that its newly elected first woman prime minister is walking with President Donald Trump. And she's doing pretty well so far, saying she wants to nominate Trump for the Peace Prize and calling this the golden age of U.S.-Japan relations. The main focus of this diplomatic tour is trade. The U.S. and Japan signing two agreements, as you mentioned, one on the trade deal President Trump announced in July and another on critical minerals. Japan's newly elected prime minister is navigating the country's pledge of $500 billion to fund American projects in an effort to avoid those higher tariffs as well.
You know, we can't talk trade without talking about China. This meeting really setting the stage for later this week when the president could meet with China's president. But it's not all going to be about trade. Talk about the role that fentanyl is going to have in these talks.
Yeah, President Trump is expected to meet with President Xi on Thursday, and there he said he is going to raise the issue of fentanyl, accusing China of failing to curb its flow into the United States. It's part of what's been a war of words and also trade between our two countries. But what the markets are responding to and what's at the top of mind of investors is trade. And now that there appears to be some kind of a framework in place for when these world leaders meet, the markets are responding. The Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ all hit record highs Monday, driven by optimism that President Trump and China's President Xi will strike a deal on trade when they meet in South Korea on Thursday.
And, you know, we also heard the president was possibly flirting with the idea of visiting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Any progress being made on that front?
Yeah, President Trump asked reporters if you want to put out the word, please do. He said he would be willing to extend this Asia trip to meet with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. But nothing has been planned. Famously, President Trump made history during his first term, becoming the first U.S. president to visit North Korea. Dan, back to you.
Yeah, we remember that shot well of the two meeting. Tracy Wilkins, great to be with you this morning. Thanks. And we have plenty more in store for you coming up. This is The Take. Here is where the federal government shutdown sits on day 28. The Senate was back in session yesterday, but focused on confirming judicial nominees, not advancing a funding bill to end the shutdown. 12 times senators have voted on such a measure, and 12 times it's failed to pass. The House was not in session, with Speaker Mike Johnson now indicating he will make decisions about returning on a day-by-day basis. Members of the House have not been gavelled into session since September 19th. But some good news yesterday. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says it will continue funding food assistance for pregnant women, new moms, and young children for, quote, the foreseeable future, basically keeping the WIC program afloat here. And while WIC funding is back on, the same can't be said for SNAP benefits, with the USDA saying it can't tap into its contingency fund. But advocates warn that decision could leave millions without critical support. The contingency fund is estimated to hold between roughly $5 to $6 billion. A recent USDA memo says the fund is only reserved for disasters or emergencies. The agency estimates that SNAP normally needs $9 billion each month to serve all 42 million recipients. All this as the clock ticks to Saturday's deadline, when more than 1 in 8 Americans could lose food assistance if funds remain locked. Let's dive deeper into this fund story with Daniel Hornung, former Deputy Director of the National Economic Council of the Biden White House. Daniel, great to have you this morning on an important story. Let's start with that new information on WIC being continued. How much of a relief is that news?
Well, that is a really significant relief. You know, so many new mothers, children, infants across the country rely on that program. I do think it underscores, though, that there is an ability to be creative, just as the Trump administration has been within other programs. And I would hope that they would reverse course soon and make sure that by this Saturday, those SNAP payments can go out as well.
Mr. Horning, as we said here, the USDA says the funds are only available, quoting from them in that memo here, to supplement regular monthly benefits when amounts have been appropriated for but are insufficient to cover benefits. So the bottom line here, does the administration have the legal authority to use the SNAP contingency fund now or not? How do you see it?
I think the answer is that they do. And certainly when you apply the same standard that the administration has used in other areas to have other programs go forward, it seems that the administration has not been worried about taking aggressive legal interpretations, doing things like making sure that farm aid goes out, other ways that the administration has kept open certain programs, the parks, for example. And so I'd hope that they'd bring that same creativity to the SNAP program. As you noted, 1 in 8 Americans rely on that program to receive food assistance, make sure food is on the table. This will be very serious if we have Americans across the country not getting those benefits in the next week or two.
Well, I mean, is the math working out here? Because quick back in the napkin math here shows that you need $5 to $6 billion sitting in reserves, yes, but around $9 billion is needed for 1 month. So how do you even stretch that out? What's the most practical way to do this?
Well, I think the reality is, you know, the basic math, they could get several weeks into the month. And so I would encourage them to have states put those payments out so people can get through at least the next few weeks. It's certainly not a way we should be governing. We should be passing funding bills to make sure the government is open for the long term. People aren't worried about this. But when you get right up to those cliffs, we need to ensure there aren't disruptions for families across the country who are counting on that program.
And as we're approaching that Saturday deadline, any single action that we could take this week as a country, barring reopening of the government, that could keep food on the table for November?
Well, I think it really is the Trump administration deciding to release those funds. It's a very difficult issue when you put it in the kind of larger picture of the importance of also making sure that on November 1st, people's healthcare premiums aren't going to start going up in January. People are going to start getting notified of their health insurance premiums in 2026 very soon. And we're talking about doubling of premiums for certain households. So I think that's the issue that has kept this government shutdown really going on longer than anyone would want it to. But I think when it comes to this specific issue of SNAP, the Trump administration does have the tools to make sure that folks aren't going hungry in November, and I hope that they decide to use them.
And Mr. Horning, for people who maybe have never used SNAP who are watching, how do you make them understand what this means for their neighbors, their community, and their local grocery store? What do you want to leave them with today?
Well, I think people have sometimes in their head this idea that SNAP is a program that really is just for the poorest people in our society, and very few people use it. The reality is 1 in 8 Americans rely on SNAP benefits at some point during the year. That means, middle class folks who lose a job and aren't able to put food on the table have it as a lifeline. It means the elderly, people with disabilities, people who are sick. So many across the country rely on this program, and it really is a critical lifeline that doesn't just help those families, but make sure that when things turn in the economy, that the economy can keep plugging along as well.
Daniel Horning this morning, the former Deputy Director of the National Economic Council in the Biden White House. We thank you for your time.
Good to be with you.
All right, plenty more in store for you. This is The Take. We are continuing our coverage of the federal government shutdown as it stretches on. Thousands of workers across Georgia are feeling the strain of missed paychecks. But now one local credit union is stepping in to help. Joining us now from Associated Credit Union is Chad Evans. Chad, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So we understand you have a program out there to help families stay afloat. Can you explain to us how it works?
Yes, when the federal government shutdown began, we got together as a team and rolled out a low-interest personal loan for consumers that were facing a hardship due to their income being furloughed.
What kind of low interest are we talking about here, and what are some of the repayment terms offered here?
So we initially started with up to $600 for 4%, up to 9 months. That gets them for a temporary help, and then if the government shutdown continues to roll on, then we'll be there to help them with further loans as we go forward. So far, we've granted over 100 of them since the beginning of October.
100 loans, and
yes.
If somebody's interested, how can they reach out to you and take part in this?
Well, as you know, credit unions are cooperatives, financial institutions, and so we're here as a mantra of people helping people. And the best way to get in touch with us is to call us at our local number, and we have agents standing by to help them with those loans temporarily. And we normally can get them done same day for those members that are already a member of Associated Credit Union and are employees or contracted with the federal government.
Chad, if this shutdown continues, as it appears it will, could become the longest shutdown we've seen in U.S. government history. I mean, how long can a credit union like yourself sustain this level of support? How long can it keep this program going?
Well, we're going to take that on a month-to-month basis and hope for the best on a compromise. We also work with our local league, the League of Southeast Credit Unions, toward advocacy with both sides, hoping to come to a compromise. In addition, on the other side, for those that already have loans with us, we are, granting special exceptions for helping those members out with reduced payments on their payments that are due with us currently, and ones that are coming up at the beginning of November.
I think that leads into my next question: is what's the long-term goal for helping these members recover financially? Anything more that you guys can do on the back end of this once the government does reopen?
Education. I think we have a number of financial counseling employees that are certified that can help work members through these hard times. We offer a number of budgeting tools on our website, and with calling in, we can provide those, and then just helping them with their day-to-day budget allocation, and really just getting them through until the income comes back to full force.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks learning the hard way, perhaps the importance of an emergency fund through this shutdown. Given your history of serving federal employees, the ACU, can you talk to me just about how personal this initiative is for you and your team?
Yeah, we've been around since 1930, and as you said, our baseline was the Federal Employees Credit Union before a merger. And so we have 15 to 20% of our members that work with the CDC, the VA, the IRS, and other federal agencies here locally in Georgia. And so these are our members that do business with us every day. We talk to them on the phone. We serve them in our branches and virtually on the website. So we know them personally. We know the struggles they're going through, and we're here to help them make it through this together.
Chad Evans, we thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we have more of The Take coming up right after this. We're back with a look live now in Kingston, Jamaica, where Hurricane Melissa is set to hit officially the eye wall any moment as a catastrophic Category 5 storm, the strongest to lash that island since record keeping began 174 years ago. We're talking landslides, fallen trees, numerous power outages already reported, and that's before the eye wall even hit. Once this makes landfall, Melissa is expected to slice diagonally across Jamaica, then hit Cuba. We'll have continuous updates on the storm here on the networks of 11Alive. Now back here in Georgia as we look live at the tarmac of the world's busiest airport, where it's becoming a soggy week for air travel, but boy, do we need the rain. Hard to believe we're about a month away from the chaotic and frenzied holiday travel season. As folks take off from Hartsfield today, more of those travelers are finding it easier to stay connected. Southwest has now joined several other air carriers rolling out free in-flight Wi-Fi for its loyal travelers. It's a move that could make scrolling at 30,000 feet the new norm. Let's bring in, as we do each Tuesday, consumer expert Morgan Ward to find out what's driving the shift. Morgan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we think of this as like the ultimate luxury, being able to have online access 30,000 feet up, but some kind of view it as a necessity now. A lot of people getting work done in the air. So is this move by Southwest being fueled by competition, technology, customer pressure? What's your take?
I think it's a few things. For Southwest, I think that last year they took away some customer benefits and they got a lot of feedback on that. And now they're refocusing on what consumers really want. And one of those things is that they have access to Wi-Fi. They aren't the first people to do it, but they are sort of setting a baseline so that at this point, I think most airlines are going to have this as a starting for customer satisfaction.
Does this move truly make travel more affordable, or you think airlines are just going to repackage that cost a little differently, pass along that extra $10 elsewhere, maybe in a baggage fee here or a ticket price there?
Yeah, I think we can already see them raising prices in other places and then giving you a benefit that you might have had to pay for in the past, but no longer have to pay for. So that actually feels like a little gift, even though you're probably paying for it in other ways.
Right, and some people paying for it through being a loyalty member already, which I believe is the only folks who are going to have access to this for now on Southwest. I mean, do you expect this to become standard across all major carriers in the next year or so?
I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I think it's absolutely going to have to be, because they will be in the minority if you don't have free access to this. And really, even though you have to have a Rapid Rewards membership, that is actually free to Southwest customers. So in a sense, it is free for everybody.
Good to know. Flying out of Atlanta, I'm on Delta a lot, and with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old usually in tow with me, I love the television sets they have on the back seat. So, I mean, you're kind of seeing these airlines have to match each other with some of the benefits that they offer, really to stay competitive. Because if I have the choice between a Delta or another airline, I might go with the one with the television on the back seat.
Absolutely, it's these smaller little benefits that I think differentiate airlines. We're all flying from one place to another, but having something like a way to entertain a 1-year-old I certainly can empathize. You absolutely will choose that over something that doesn't have that benefit.
Miss Rachel, 30,000 feet up. I've done it far too often. When folks board their next flight, what should they look for to take advantage of those new free Wi-Fi offers?
So it is free to everyone, but you do have to have a Rapid Rewards membership. And then you have to wonder, will this be as reliable as it has been? Because now everybody has access. So you know that at times can cause a little foible here and there in the accessibility of the Wi-Fi. So I would still bring a book just in case.
Nothing beats a book on an airplane, really. It's still the best way to go. But, when you look at the broader trend here, airlines racing to offer free Wi-Fi, do you see this as a genuine win for travelers, or is it kind of just the next way for carriers to compete to land our loyalty?
I think that it's both, actually. It is a win that we don't have to pay more, but I think that carriers are still trying to find little differentiation points to try to lure in their customers when they're basically providing very similar benefits. So you have to find little things.
Morgan Ward, it's great having you on the show again, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Talk about something else. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay, we're going to take a live look now at the White House. As we said earlier in the show, President Trump not there as he's continuing his tour of Asia, but work there continues at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on one of his most passionate projects. We're talking about his 90,000 square foot ballroom being built on the site of the former East Wing and historic Jacqueline Kennedy Garden. Demolition work began last week, even as formal review by some oversight agencies remained incomplete. The ballroom's capacity is being put at close to 1,000 people. The overall price tag was originally set at $200 million, but now the project's estimate has been raised to roughly $300 million, and it's all paid for with private funds. Let's get into some of the historical perspective on this project with friend of the show, Emory political science professor, Dr. Andrea Gillespie. Andrea, great to see you again. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Many of us see the White House as the home for every president since 1800, but how does this project compare to some earlier White House renovations like Truman's or Kennedy's?
Well, this is certainly a big project. I think the larger issue is whether or not the traditional processes for approving this plan have actually been met. And so the law that actually controls this is the 1966 National Historic Preservation Act, which would require that any building in Washington, D.C. of historic value have to go through a review process before you make major changes to it. Now, that bill actually exempts the White House, the Capitol, and the Supreme Court building. And so that's the loophole that President Trump has used to kind of elide the review process. It's a little interesting, right, because the Trumps built a tennis pavilion on the White House property in their first term, and they actually went through the review process. And they're saying that they're going to go through the review process for this ballroom, but it's the idea that they did the demolition first before actually kind of finishing the project. And then there's the idea that when President Trump first proposed this project, he actually said it wasn't going to touch the existing structures at the White House. So I think that both of just the loophole and the fact that the East Wing has been destroyed is actually very jarring to a lot of people.
Yeah, striking images, no doubt, for Americans to see the bulldozers going straight there to the White House and the East Wing. Wall Street Journal editorial writer yesterday, actually, they're on usually right of center. They said that protecting something quintessentially American is patriotism, not politics. That from the Wall Street Journal editorial. Historically, how have presidents balanced the modernization of the White House while also needing to preserve it as a symbolism of democratic public space?
The review process is an important part of that, right? You get public comment on it because it's not your house. I mean, it would be one thing if this were Trump Tower and something that, Donald Trump owned and he wanted to make changes to it. It would be within his prerogative to do so. But he's only a temporary occupant of this house. And so you have to be mindful of the fact that it is the people's house. There are also some questions, architecturally speaking. This renovation is going to be 90,000 square feet. The White House residence is only about 55,000. And so I think there are questions about symmetry and questions about what that would look like, and the historic value of having gotten rid of things that are not just historically important, but also functionally important. The First Lady's office is in the East Wing. The theater was in the East Wing. There are all kinds of things that have been lost. And so I think people might be questioning the president making a unilateral decision in this particular case because of functional reasons, and then also because of the historic value.
We've heard the White House say, well, I mean, it's privately funded, no taxpayer dollars being used to this. I heard you call it, the people's house as we all know it. But when you counter that with the fact this is privately funded, it's going to be an invitation-only ballroom, what does that do to the idea of the White House being the people's house?
So, I mean, two things. The president doesn't get to live there indefinitely. So you've probably rented before. I've certainly rented before. There's certain things you can't do to somebody else's house, even if you're living there. So I think that there's this general respect for process issue. Then there is the issue of, the private paying for this. There isn't a problem with a public-private partnership per se, but I think that there are questions about whether or not some people are donating to the building of this ballroom if they are attempting to try to curry favor with the administration for policies and kind of favorable attention in terms of things that they want. So I think that, the bigger issue here is about process. Are you doing things properly? It's not that there isn't a need for a ballroom. I think that there is a strong case to be made for that. But President Trump did not go through the right steps to really convince the people that this is the right thing to do, to go through, making sure that it's done in a proper fashion. And so I think that, this isn't just partisanship, that there are real legitimate reasons to kind of question how this has been done, not the fact that there is a ballroom being built.
Yeah, I think that questioning is going to continue even as the walls go up. Andrew Gillespie from Emory University, thank you so much for your time helping us add some context and perspective to this new project at the White House. Thank you. And we'll be right back. Plenty more of The Take coming right up. Welcome back. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ markets all hit record highs yesterday, driven by optimism that President Trump can strike a deal on trade with China. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. Maribel, good to see you again. Great day for the markets yesterday. Are we seeing that optimism carry into today, too?
We're seeing that green, Dan. The trading day opens on a rally momentum that drove all three of the major indices to record highs yesterday. Investors will be monitoring big tech earnings, trade talks between the U.S. and China, and the Fed's meeting. The central bank is expected to cut interest rates again, with another cut possible next month as well. The board will make its next move lacking key federal inflation data, with many reports. Remember, they're paused during the government shutdown. But right now, as I said, Dan, lots of green. The Dow's up, looks like 183, the S&P up 9, and here at NASDAQ we're up about 123 points, Dan.
All right, I see Amazon also in the green today, despite some of the latest news there about their latest delivery, if you will, being job cuts. And these cuts go deep, too.
They do. Amazon will be again laying off 14,000 employees today. It's one of the largest waves of cuts in the company's history as AI technology expands. Now, it wasn't clear if or how many of those cuts would affect Atlanta's Amazon workforce. It comes at a time when others in big tech are also slashing their staffing numbers. Amazon is the second largest private employer in the U.S., with a global workforce of more than 1.5 million people. Affected employees are expected to be notified by mail later this morning. Dan, I think we used to call it right sizing, a lot of reductions in force, and expect to see a lot more switcheroos and a lot of trimming backs as AI growth continues.
Yeah, another big tech name in the Mag 7, Google, speaking of AI, has a new plan to power it, and it's going nuclear here.
Google is going nuclear. It plans to reopen an Iowa nuclear plant to power its AI data centers in partnership with Next Era Energy. The nuclear facility closed in 2020, but it could begin operating again by early 2029 if regulators approve. The Central Iowa Power Cooperative, the state's largest energy provider, has agreed to buy surplus electricity left over by Google. The nuclear site's rival comes as tech companies are investing billions of dollars to get ahead in the global AI race. Federal energy officials say national power usage hit a record high last year. And you know what? It's likely to keep rising if data centers expand at their current pace. Dan.
You know, Mary Bell, it's never too early, in my opinion, to be thinking ahead to your next meal. And I'm thinking about dinner tonight, but you're saying, hey, wait a minute, check the freezer first, right?
Yes. Hormel Foods is recalling nearly 4 million pounds of frozen chicken that could contain bits of metal. The ready-to-eat items were distributed to commercial food service locations nationwide earlier this year. The USDA says customers reported finding metal in chicken meals that they were served at restaurants. Hormel found that the metal came from a conveyor belt in one of its production plants. No injuries have been reported, and any food service with the product is directed to throw it away immediately, because a lot of that, Dan, came from restaurants. And this is why I prefer to cook my chicken at home. And if you need an easy recipe, Dan, give a shout. Chicken breast, phyllo dough, spinach, and boursin cheese.
Ooh,
that's
yum.
it. $3.50. Let's go.
I love it. I like sprinkling some paprika on there, some smoked paprika on the chicken breast. But you know what? I might just pick up some sushi tonight.
Healthy.
Mary Bell, thanks so much. Great to see you. We'll see you again pretty soon, and plenty more in store for you coming up. This is The Take. We're talking more food after this from State Farm Arena. Well, from sizzling smash burgers to jerk chicken with kick, the Atlanta Hawks and State Farm Arena are serving up a brand new menu that tastes like home with a little ATL flair. Chef G. Garvin is behind it all. He joins us now to dish out how some of this new arena food just went from courtside snack to full-on Southern experience. Welcome, Chef. Great to have you today.
Hey, nice to see you as well.
You know, you've brought some serious flavor to the court this year. What was your vision when reimagining arena food for Atlanta fans?
Well, you know, it starts with Steve Coonan says that we're the largest restaurant in the state. And, you know, working with Levy, we really wanted to do a elevated experience menu so that the Atlanta natives coming out to concerts, ball games, could really enjoy their meal. As you know, nowadays, getting to the arena, there's traffic. When people come and they're hungry, they want to eat well, they want to enjoy a great game. So we wanted to do a great menu to accompany that.
All right, run down some of the highlights the fans will see when they get to State Farm.
Ooh, man, listen. We're going to start with the burgers. We've got the smash burger. That's a classic smash burger, double patty with the butter brioche bun. We've got the barbecue smash burger. We've got the blue cheese bacon smash burger. We got the black bean burger for the vegans. You know, we got a lot of great stuff. We got a chicken Philly cheese, salmon glaze, all kinds of great stuff.
It looks like we're seeing some video here of it too. Is there a milkshake offering? It appears a pretzel.
Yeah,
what
we've
else
got
you
some classic milkshakes that we're going to be making. Giant pretzels, and of course we got the best popcorn in the city. So yeah, we got a lot of great stuff, and you know, we do sushi in the arena, and then going to some of our clubs. We've really done a great job in making sure we heard what the customers wanted and the fans wanted to see.
I mean, this is not the kind of arena food that I'm used to seeing. You know, the greasy French fries and the paper plate, and you got the ketchup that you got to squeeze on there. I mean, this is a full-on gourmet experience. How much fun did you have making all this?
You know, the Levy culinary team and myself as the chief culinary officer, we really enjoy what we do. You know, we listen to the fans. We do a scratch dough pizza every single game throughout the arena. So when we're down in the kitchen, man, you know, we think like chefs, and that's what we do. We make great food, and we make sure that the fans get to enjoy that great food.
I know earlier you said it raises the standard for arena food. I mean, what does that mean in practice? Are we talking fresher, bolder, more soulful?
So one of the great things is we use some local purveyors. So like I said, the pizza dough is made from scratch every single day. We hand cut the fries, we smash the burgers, we roll and smash the burgers. So it really is just making sure that there is a farm to table component while understanding that you're still in an arena. So we want to make it fun, but not stuffy. So we were intentional with the things we've done. You know, and we think they're going to be great for the season.
You talk about farm to table. Is this locally sourced? I mean, how are we going to make sure this tastes like Atlanta at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, man, we've got some Atlanta natives in the kitchen. You know, mama told me what to do, and that's what we're doing.
At the end of the day, what do you hope fans walk away saying about the food, the experience, about everything when it comes to eating at State Farm Arena?
That we listened. We talked to the fans, we talked to the people that come into the stadiums. We have a really good group, starting with the leadership. So when people come in, it's not an afterthought. We're very intentional with the menus. We're very intentional where we serve things. We're really intentional and understanding that Atlanta is a very much food-savvy town, and people know what they want. People know what they should have and what they deserve. And at State Farm Arena, we want to make sure we are listening and delivering, right?
Chef, have you heard from any of your peers in the industry? Any other arenas jealous of what you're putting out there this year?
They like to hit Instagram and say, "We see you, we see you." That's right. We're doing it right, man. We're doing it right. We're going to the playoffs, and we're gonna make people full all the way.
All right, you called it here first, Chef. We're going to the playoffs. We're going to have some heck of a food on the way there. Appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. Nice to see you.
All right, coming up next, my final take. Looking live in Kingston, Jamaica, where Hurricane Melissa is set to hit as a catastrophic Category 5 storm. It will be the strongest to lash the island since record keeping began 174 years ago. Already landslides, fallen trees, and numerous power outages have been reported. Landfall really expected any moment now. As we take a look at the radar, Melissa expected to slice diagonally across Jamaica and then hit Cuba. We will have continuous updates on the storm here on the networks of 11Alive. But before we go, my final take today is about the people of Jamaica as that catastrophic Category 5 hurricane batters the island. As a teenager, I went on a couple of community service trips to Jamaica, and it remains one of the most touching experiences of my life. When it comes to Jamaica, there is the island tourists know, Montego Bay, the resorts, Caribbean paradise. And then there's what we call the real Jamaica. The poverty, the tin huts, the pregnant stray dogs. I'm thinking of all Jamaicans today. I'm thinking of Mr. Rudy, the blind man in a nursing home who reads his Bible in Braille, but knew his favorite verses by heart. I'm thinking of TJ and Chantel, their smiles, just little girls back then, now in their 20s and hopefully still beaming. I'm thinking of Durant and all the other children born into squatter communities. In the real Jamaica, they were fortunate if they had a shirt to call their own. But they had each other and they always had a smile. They would say, Iriman, meaning it's all good. And I hope they can say that in just a few days. That Mr. Rudy, TJ, Chantel, Durant, and everyone in Jamaica can get through today and wake up tomorrow with what has always mattered most to them: community, faith, and love. Thank you for watching The Take today. Chesley will be back with you tomorrow. We'll continue to follow the latest of Hurricane Melissa today as it batters Jamaica and then makes its way to Cuba, a catastrophic Category 5 storm. The latest coming up today on 11Alive News at midday. We'll see you then.